Hello, this is Brian from Tavarn Games here with another update to Dungeon Maker. So in this update, I'm going to talk about the animated dice rolls I've added, as well as the ability for the Dungeon Master to add fire to various tiles during multiplayer, new items that were added to the game, as well as some bug fixes. Now these updates came out over the last 2 months or so, sort of before the holidays and just after. But I'm making the video now for it all collectively, and they are all currently up on the Steam version of Dungeon Maker. So the first thing we can look into, if we pop into the settings menu, as you see, we have the new dice options here in the settings. So you can choose to have animated dice or not. The default is set to on when you start a game, but you can turn them off. And you can change the color of the dice if you want, changing the fonts, changing everything else. And yeah, really customize them so there's something you like. Oh, those are funky, so let's go with that. Alright, so let's actually join a game. I have hosted locally. Let's just grab a character, join in. This will just take a second. And there we go. Okay, so the all of our NPCs having their pictures load. So let's do an attack. So let's grab a Warhammer, go in, and attack this character, and you see it'll roll our d20 there. And that one missed. Let's try it with advantage. We can do that again. We've got multiple dice now, and look at that. So there we go. We've got our animated dice going. Something big like Fireball won't roll dice because of the saving throws would have to roll on the other side. But for any attacks that are targeted and anything else where it's not an area of effect, will roll the dice for you. Actually, let's edit the Warhammer. Let's give it a whole bunch of dice just to make for fun. And let's go. So you see the dice will change their speed and size based on how zoomed in you are. They are actual game objects in the game, not up as part of the UI. So they do look best sort of at this default zoom. But yeah, so we've got the animated dice roll. They will also roll for saving throws. If you look there, we've got the saving throws. The skill checks, they'll roll for that and show you that. And then the ones you roll up here. Oh, that one flew off the screen. There we go. And you can see all the different dice. And if you roll a D100, it will roll the 2 10s. And there you go. So that is the animated dice. So if we go over to the hosting window here, which is the DMs, you can see the Dungeon Master now has the 2 new buttons here in their DM menu. So you can show and hide that. So let's try adding fire. So you see a little icon will pop up on the mouse and fly around. And if we click tiles, it will add these little fires to the tiles anywhere you click. And then if you want to get rid of a fire, you go over to end fire. You see our icon changes to a no fire icon, and you just click on them again and that will get rid of them. The fire itself doesn't actually interact with the players or anything. I didn't want to assume the damage that they would take. So if we grab an NPC, walk it over the fire, it just stands over it. So it will be up to the Dungeon Master and the players to determine sort of how much damage the fire does. But this would also let you, if the players want to start a fire and then over turns, you could, the Dungeon Master could have it start spreading as it moves around, especially if you're in a forest or wooden buildings. This could also be used to represent spells like Wall of Fire, which right now the game doesn't really support because it only supports circular shapes for area of effect and duration spells. So with Wall of Fire, where you can make actual like a linear wall of it, you could use, the Dungeon Master could use this option. The player can just tell them where to put it. As well, you can use it for start bonfire, stuff like that. So I thought that was a good addition to the game. Now there were some bug fixes as well, a lot in the multiplayer. So one was the hit dice. So I added in the hit dice in the previous update where you can roll the die, it will roll your hit dice. So you can see we rolled a 2, we healed 7 points off that, which means we added 5, which actually I believe is the constitution for this character. Yep, plus 5, so that works. Whereas for a bit when I first added it though, it was actually adding on your constitution score. So like it would add 14 or 15, so I fixed that. Another one was non-range spells. So if we add an action that is the area self spell, let's just make up some stuff. 1d4, yeah, 12, and charisma, whatever. Doesn't really matter what it is. So you can see the area of effect around yourself will show up on your character. You have to reset it when you move. But right now it sticks with where you click it, where your character was sitting. Whereas for a bit, it was acting like an area range spell, like, say, Fireball, where it moves under your mouse. So area and area range were acting the same way, which was a little bit odd. So I fixed that. Another fix was this daytime selector here, this day-night selector. For the DM, the label wasn't working. It was just not showing up at all, so I had to fix that. And now some ones for the DM. You see, like, down here, this door is actually rotated. You can tell because the lock icon is upside down. So if I put an NPC over top of it, I can click and select and deselect the NPC. However, before, if you put an NPC and stop them on a rotated door, it wouldn't let you click them again. It would just open and close, lock and unlock the door, or open and close it. But the NPC would just be stuck there, and you wouldn't be able to. The DM wouldn't be able to select them to move them or use their actions or anything. Basically, taking them out of the encounter. So I fixed that bug. It was just an issue of colliders sort of blocking each other, but that's all fixed. And as you saw, another change I made is if you have an NPC sitting on a door and you click it and unclick it, it only selects the NPC. Whereas before, it would also toggle the door. It would open and close the door, or toggle the lock status if you were clicking on it. And same thing if you were over a torch or a fire. It would be toggling the light as you're clicking the NPC instead of just selecting the NPC, which was getting a little annoying. I didn't realize that was an issue till I was DMing, and it was like, oh, okay, I put an enemy here, and I'm trying to select it. Nope, suddenly the doors are slamming shut as well. So that's been fixed. That works a lot better now. Another small fix. Let's go back to our player. In the edit character screen, if we go under our skills and the proficiency in that, you can see the fonts here. Let's actually exit the game because I need to go change the font from our default font to our simple. So this one I added before. And you see it changes the ones in the drop-down menus too. Now, if we go to the character screen and look at the skills, we can see we select these drop-down menus, and we get the changed font on the sub-menus. But for a bit, on these deeper sub-menus, it wasn't actually changing the font. And it was because the script I was using to go through all the UI elements and find all the fonts wasn't able to grab the child objects of sub menus and sub objects within the interface. However, I fixed that, just quick change in the code, and that is now fixed. Okay, so that's most of the main changes, and then if we just go to the menu, let's just exit this, not the menu, go into campaign editing. Let's just grab this Bandit Camp map. It'll take a second to load. A few things in the map maker. So one thing, as you were selecting items and trying to use the scroll bar, the game was having issues. It wouldn't always let you select it. Like, you'd be hovering and it would be selectable, not selectable, selectable, not selectable. And what was happening is, you see, as we hover over things, you see these labels pop up. Is the labels were sitting there no matter what. So they just didn't have any text in them, but the object was still there, and it was blocking the scroll bar and the items beneath them. Until you scrolled over them, and then once you left, the label would then actually be moved off the screen, so it wouldn't be blocking the scroll bar. So I just made it so when the map maker loads, it grabs the label and just moves it over right away when it first loads the game. So that way, it will never be blocking these submenus. As well, I've just added in some items. So if we go into furniture, a bunch were added. So the burial tab now, which we had the grave before, but I've added in some coffins. So we've got these stone coffins, the closed and open version, wooden coffins, same thing, closed and open, and then these more fancier crypts. So you can use this to sort of build up your graveyard and mausoleum sets. I've also added in into the wall decorations, fireplace. I found that was really lacking. Now, it looks like it's off tile, but it's designed to sit on a wall. So you'd have it built into the wall, and there you have a nice fireplace, and it acts like any normal light in the game. You can click it to turn the fire on and off. But just a useful item. I really was looking for that in the game. I needed it for some campaigns, so that has finally been added. I also added in a couple new lights. So this sort of lantern, this handheld style lantern, you see it has a hook on it that like a character would use to carry it, as well as a version on a pole that would be, something you'd find in a town hanging outside of shops and outside on the pathways. Then some personal items. So back to the decorations. So we have the personal belongings tab, though I only have the 2 items now, though. I added a loot and a satchel. And then in the natural objects, I added in some crystals so that, you can use that as prizes in a cave system, or just to be natural crystals or magic crystals. Perhaps the alchemist is using them in his potion shop. So yeah, that's all the changes I have for this update. I'll be getting more done over the next few weeks, especially now with the holidays and birthday celebrations and stuff all over. I can get back to working more on Dungeon Maker for you all. As always, if you have any ideas for what you'd like to see added to Dungeon Maker, either in the map maker or in the multiplayer, please let me know in the comments. Have a good one.